Hi everyone, this is Britt Simon. I thought I'd jump on and take some questions if there's anyone around. Might be quite late for some people in some of the countries, but if you have any questions, feel free to come and ask them. I have nothing in particular to discuss, just taking your questions and answering those for you. I'll immediately deal with the usual questions though about DV 2020 and DV 2021. There's no news. Another week has gone by. We're well over 1 year of waiting for the appeal decision. And obviously, years after people expected to have their interview. So it's an incredibly long time. But there is no way to speed this particular part of the process up. The only thing we can do is wait. There is no other alternative. And if you can't wait, if you personally have decided that emotionally or practically because of something is going on in your life, then there's no alternative but to say goodbye to the DV lottery, right? So, since you have no other choice, waiting is the only thing you can do. So there you go. All right, let's see if we've got any questions there. Questions. So yeah, the DV 2021. Actually, I just want to make clear on DV 2021. So and DV 2020 as well. So in DV 2020, because of AILA's action, there is a class lawsuit that covers everybody, essentially everybody that didn't get their visa. Not quite that, but nevertheless, there is a class, right? Which meant you didn't have to be part of the lawsuit in order to get some benefit from that. Some of you may remember there were about 7 people who were named as named persons on the lawsuit. But the lawsuit was converted into a class action, so that those 7 people kind of represented everybody else. And that means that if you're a DV 2020 case, it is still worth waiting. For DV 2021, Ahmed, to answer your question, it isn't happening if you are not protected by a lawsuit. And the way that you could have been protected by the lawsuit, there's only a couple of ways. Number one is you could have actually been a participant on one of the lawsuits. And then there's some chance of getting a visa that way if the appeal comes through. The other way is a class of people who are affected by what's called the RAI lawsuit, RAI. And that only affects people that were lined up or sort of assigned to certain embassies, mainly in Europe. There's about 26 embassies, mainly in Europe. And so that was a lawsuit brought by Curtis Morrison and Co. So if you want to know which countries those are, probably worth going over to, I think it's morrisonurania.com, but Curtis Morrison's website, and look for the 2021 litigation for the RAI case in particular, RAI. And if you were not protected by the RAI case, which is a class action and affects people at certain embassies, and you were not a participant in any of the DV 2021 cases, then DV 2021 is over for you, because you had to be a named participant in one of those cases, essentially, apart from the RAI case, right? So that might be something that some people need to face now, that it's not going to be held open forever. Anyway, that's DV 2020 and 2021. What day it opened this year? So the entry period is already open. Are you talking about the entry period? It's already open, and it will stay open until November the 7th. DV 2024, if you're talking about that, started processing on the 1st of October. DV 2023 is, of course, over, and DV 2022 is over. There's no more action that will ever happen on either of those years, okay? Okay, thanks for helping us in 23. Now living in North Carolina and came here on October the 2nd. Just got a job too. Umesh, that's awesome. Fast progress. I often tell people it'll be hard to get your first job in America. You're from abroad, you don't know how things work. It's difficult to get your first job, but you've achieved that in a very short time. You've only been here a couple of weeks, you've already got a job. That's great news. So congratulations to you on that. And then once you get a job, you'll find it easier to get another job, a second job, or to change jobs to a better job later on. It's funny how that works, but having a job kind of makes it more likely that you can get another job. So that's if you have to step back in your career path when you come to America, that's okay. Do it, because you'll quickly sort of work your way up. If you're good at your job, whatever that is, you'll quickly work your way back up to whatever position or level you had before. I've seen that many, many times. When the diversity visa lottery ends now, November 7th is the entry period end, if that's what you mean. I received my DV visa during September and it will be expired around mid of February. Is this going to be a cause of any problem if I enter around September? What do you mean you enter around September? You mean September next year? Of course that's a problem. What? It expired around middle of February. Okay. The word expired is the clue here. The visa you've been given has an expiry date of sometime in February. That date, by the way, just for interest, is 6 months after the day of your medical. Okay. Now, after that, it's done. If you choose not to enter before the expiry date, you are risking losing your status. So no, you can't enter around September. You have to enter before that expiry date. Now, technically, there is a way that you can sometimes get a replacement visa, but it will put you through a lot of risk and a lot of cost. You'd have to do the medicals again, possibly have to pay for the fees again. And because it's after the end of the year, some of the embassies won't even replace that visa anyway. So don't do that. Enter the USA before the end of February. Don't leave it until September. And if you want to, you don't have to move there permanently. You can come before the end of February. You can stay for a week or 2 weeks just to look around, see if you like the area that you chose to go, and then go home again and stay out of the country for another 6 months or 12 months, whatever. But what you can't do is let that visa expire. That would be madness. Okay. Please don't do that. Case number 75K. Do we have a chance to get the 2NL? Okay. An angel will now be put to death because you didn't tell me the region. So there's an angel being slaughtered at this very moment because of your not telling me the region. But obviously, because you say case number 75K, that can only be Africa in DV 2024. But nevertheless, an angel will be slaughtered in your name. Do you have a chance to get the 2NL? You do, depending on your case number is probably going to get current. But your chances are going to be quite heavily dependent on which embassy you're at, right? There will be people with case numbers lower than 75K who will never get an interview. That's the way things will work, I'm afraid, in this year. And that will be based a lot on which embassies people are attached to. So it's, we'll have more data. Somebody asked me this morning, by the way, why I always say there will be more information in January. I always tell people that want to know about their case number, wait until January when you'll know more. What will we know in January? Well, we'll have the SEAC data for DV 2024, which tells us the full distribution of all of the cases and all of the holes, and it tells us the highest case number, and it tells us positionally how many cases are in front of your case number. It tells us a lot, right? It will also tell us how many interviews have been performed by the embassies in the first 3 months. And all of that information we'll have on January the 1st. So it's quite an important date of information, important part of information that we will study and we'll be able to make better assessments of people's chances. Now, because of everything that is fluid, I'm still not going to be telling people, here's the cutoff point. Mathematically, I've calculated this is the cutoff point. I used to do that, and I can do it. But the problem is that if the embassies misbehave, it doesn't make sense to do it because the embassy's behavior affects the case numbers tremendously, right? So I'll be able to give more information in January, but I'm not going to give you, 100% certain answers about any case numbers, other than very, very obvious ones, right? Like case number 11,200 in Africa, for example, is obviously going to get current, right? So that's obvious, and I get frustrated when people ask me those sort of case numbers because it's like, use your brain a little bit, and there's no need to ask me whether you've got a chance with 11,200 in Africa. You obviously have a chance, right? So anyway, but we'll know more in January. All right, let me sort of get to some of these questions then. Abu Dhabi performance, they're not great. They're not terrible. They're not as bad as some of them, but they're not great, I have to say. Is there a chance for those that were selected in DV 2024? Is there any chance for those that were selected? David, your question makes no sense. That's the whole point of this lottery. Being selected in DV 2024 means you have some sort of chance. The question really is, will they get to your case number? Is your embassy going to accept your case? Are you qualified for the visa, etc.? Are the embassies, and welcome back, introverted content creator. I love this name. Are embassies in Africa doing better? We don't really know yet, is the honest answer. We've got some people that have reported, from some of the notoriously bad embassies. We know that some of the interviews are happening, right? But that's not what I call data. That's just sort of hearsay information, and so we need to have the actual data, and we won't have that until January 1. Okay. DV 2024 case number 24K EU, and all the angels are safe. I know the year, I know the region, I know your number. Thank you. I'm starting to be stressed out about when to start looking for jobs in the US. Any advice? Yeah, don't look now. That's just the guaranteed way to give yourself more stress. I can tell you from personal experience of many years of helping people that finding a job before you come to the US is hard. And I really wouldn't bother if I were you, unless you're in a particularly niche role or industry where your skills are particularly, well desired, sought after in the US. You're probably not going to get a job before you come to the US. You have to come to the US and be available and then look for your job. Now, there are some things that you can do before you arrive here, like networking on LinkedIn and other sites, like looking for jobs out there, monster.com and Indeed and other sites, right? There are some things that you can do to make your task of finding a job easier when you get here. But because you're not here, there's something about not being here that just tends to hinder you getting a job. And no American employer is going to hold the door open for you and wait for you for 3 months and not hire someone local, just because you say you're moving to America in 3 months' time. That's not going to happen, right? That just isn't going to happen. So, follow my advice on that, and just, you need to plan that you're going to come here. You need to have enough money to survive for the first few weeks while you get a job. Now, it can take a long time. It depends on the type of work you're looking for. Like if you were moving into retail jobs, you can go out and get a job pretty easily. My daughter, who's 15, wanted to find a job recently. She went out and dropped some resume CVs off at a few places. I think she went to like 7 or 8 places on one day. She got a call later that day from the first place she went to, and she got a job, right? She's 15. It's just a kid's job, but nevertheless, if you want that sort of work, it's pretty easy to get work pretty quickly. If, on the other hand, you're an accountant or you're a programmer or some sort of skilled work where you're hoping for a more senior role, then those jobs take time to get, and the interview and the hiring process in the USA tends to be quite slow. So just to give you a clue, when I was coming back here in 2014, I had previously already worked here for a number of years on visas. And I had a company in mind that I knew would want to hire me because I'd written software applications for them 15 years earlier. They knew me very, very well, right? This was a publicly traded company, a company that I knew the most important parts of their most important system. Should have been like that to get a job with them, right? And they immediately said, when I told them I was coming to the USA and I had a green card, etc., they immediately said they would hire me. They wanted to hire me, but it still took something like, I think, 6 or 7 weeks for that whole process to go through. And that process was a couple of nonsense interviews with people that I'd known for 15 years. Complete waste of time interviews, really. Questions about, what did I know about their industry? I knew their industry back to front because I'd written the software that runs their industry. I mean, I was very well known in the industry. I mean, it was nuts. I was like the perfect person and very highly sought after for that particular company or any company in that particular industry. And still, it took me 6 or 7 weeks to go through a hiring process. So don't expect this to be a fast process for some jobs, right? Other jobs, like I say, you'll drop off a resume at a fast food restaurant or whatever you want to do, a retail organization, whatever it might be, and you might be able to start work the next day or the next week or something. Different jobs have different realities. But anyway, back to you, Joseph. Don't try and get a job before you come here unless you're very, very well connected, very, very talented and in a niche industry. And, other than that, it won't work too well. And as I say, I mean, I've got personal experience of that, and I was extremely well connected, extremely well known in my industry, and wanted by the company that hired me, and they still took weeks to hire me. So there you go. About DV 2024, a lot have been doing interviews and saying there are not many people there being interviewed. So why only 11K this month? Well, there's only 11K this month, and many of the people within that 11K in Africa won't have had their DS-260s processed, and so that's why there's not a lot of interviews. But, what you hear on the grapevine isn't data, it's just hearsay. So, we need to take that with a pinch of salt until January, when we will know more, okay? Work in IT, as from a previous question. Yeah, me too. I'm in IT. I'm a software architect. So kind of makes sense. Would there be any second draw for DV 2024? What would be the freaking point of that, David? There's 140,000 people already selected. I commented on another YouTuber's video the other day. I saw this this couple that do videos, the Karanjas, I think they are. They do YouTube videos. There are a couple of previous winners. Pretty inexperienced about DV, but nice people, and they're trying to help people. And I do appreciate that they try and help people without cost, without charging anybody. I think that's the right way to do it, personally. So nice people. But during one of their videos, I happened to catch the guy said that there is no such thing as a second draw, which is completely inaccurate. There is a thing called a second draw, but it's a second batch of winners, sometimes selected around about September or October. Now, it doesn't happen every year. The last time it happened was in DV 2018. And the only reason there would be a second batch of winners drawn is if the first batch of winners was a small number. But there's no point in adding more to more winners when you've already got more than enough winners. And we've certainly got more than enough winners, selectees, in DV 2024, right? 140,000 people selected. Now, anyone selected in a second draw gets case numbers higher than the already existing people. So we've got case numbers in Africa up to 122,000 or so and above, probably. Why on earth would we want more people added to that after that number? Why do we need more people than 140,000? So no, David, there is no second draw in DV 2024 because we've already got more than enough winners. Okay, yeah, that's how it works. But anyway, there you go. 57K in Algeria, do I have a chance? Yeah, you probably do. It's probably not a bad number in Algeria. And Algeria did exceptionally well with its work during DV 2023, right? So yeah, you've got a chance for sure. Case number 75K, we talked about that already. 96K from AF24 is very high. Well, it's higher than 80,000, right? I think the highest number in DV 2022 is going to be about 122,000, maybe a bit more than that. So your case number is in the highest, let's say 10 or 20% of numbers. So yeah, it's pretty high. Is it too high? I don't know. Depends on the behavior of the embassies, including your own embassy, but also mostly the other embassies in Africa. Okay. Is there a chance of those of us who had DV 2023 scheduled interviews, but were closed out to get case numbers in DV 2025? Yeah. So this is often asked. It's like it's almost like people think that because they were in DV 2023 and they lost out, and in this case, it's a gentleman who's had an interview arranged but still lost out. Are those people given any special priority in DV 2025, the next lottery, or 26, the lottery after that, or in any other lottery? And the simple answer is no. They have exactly the same chance as anyone else entering, right? So you can re-enter DV 2025. If you're a DV 23 candidate or a 22 candidate and you didn't make it, or even an active DV 2024 candidate, you can all enter DV 2025. There's no harm in that. There's no negative impact of that, right? But you don't get any benefit from your previous win. You don't get any special priority. You're just the same as anyone else. So your chance of selection is the same as anyone else, right? It does happen. I have seen lots of people who have been selected more than one time, sometimes in consecutive years. It happens every year because there's 25 million people enter. There's going to be some coincidental reselection, right? But there's no sort of priority given to those cases. Okay. Patricia says, thanks for the information. Would you know how the Zambian embassy is faring? My case number is AF 35,000. I don't know about the Zambian embassy right now. No. We'll have data in January, and then we'll be able to talk about realities rather than just trying to guess. Your number's pretty low, though, so you've got a good chance. And the Zambian embassy is not known for being a bad embassy, so you've got a good chance, I would say. How many times did you apply for DV lottery, and did you want to go to the USA for a long time? Great question. We applied twice. We won on the second attempt. My wife and I both applied. I say, yeah, my wife, she was my wife then. I think, I mean, I'd been working in the USA, so it was something that was just sort of normal for us. It wasn't that we wanted to go to the USA. We knew the USA. I'd been working in the USA since the mid-90s. And I was here on visas, and there was a long period of time between 2005 and 2010 when I was traveling back and forth from the UK to the USA. I was on a plane every 2 weeks, going one direction or the other to the USA or from the USA. The company was, bringing me. This is what I was saying earlier. The company that I work for now was paying me as a contractor, even though I lived in the UK and I was flying over. They would pay my expenses, my flights, my car hire, my hotel, meals, whatever, for me to come over, 2 weeks out of every 4 weeks. And then when I went home back to the UK, I was still, still doing work for them. I was just in meetings when I was here. And then I was actually doing sort of programming stuff at home in the UK. So yeah, I mean, I knew the USA. It's not like we were coming to something I didn't know, right? But we tried. We entered the lottery twice, didn't get selected the first time. Although, funnily enough, in the first year, when we applied twice, I think it was DV 2014 was the lottery we actually succeeded on, but I applied for DV 2013 as well. And in that year, we got accepted on the H1 lottery. There was a lottery for the H1 visas as well at that time, still is. And we got accepted for an H1 visa in that same year. So we actually came to the USA on the H1 visa in September of 2014, and then transferred to the green card in September. We came in February of 2014, I should say, and we transferred to the green card, did adjustment of status in the USA in September of 2014 on DV 2014. And my case number, for some of you that might be interested, my wife's case number, actually, I was a derivative. We were EU 31,000 and something, so about 31,000, which was considered a high case number in that year. So that's it. And my wife is from Spain. That's the other thing people sometimes question, is like, how was I able to enter the lottery? Because my wife was from Spain. That's how. Okay, Maron. I applied last year in October, and the confirmation number at DV 24. Can I wait up next to check? You can check the entrance status site now, or you can check it later, but I suggest you check it sooner rather than later to see if you're a winner. You can check. It's been checkable since May. Nushin says, I received my DV visa during the beginning of September, and it will expire around mid of February. I was wondering if it will cause any problem if I enter around January. I think we talked about this earlier, right? Yes, you've got to enter in January. That's fine. You said September earlier, and that's a problem. AS9K from Jakarta, what do you think? What do I think about what? You have to give me a clue, right? You're probably asking me, is yours a good number? Well, that's kind of a useless waste of time question, right? So I'm not even going to bother answering the question you didn't ask. Please, with regard to filing a DS-260, going on the section where you put the parents' details, does the applicant put in the name of the stepfather or biological father? Your stepfather is the answer there. Your stepfather has taken sort of legal responsibility for you. In reality, the reason why you put parents' details in there is because you might one day want to sponsor that parent, right? As a citizen of the USA, you can sponsor your parents, right? So you come to the USA by DV, wait 5 years. You have to be actually resident in the country for a substantial period of time during that 5 years. But you wait 5 years, you can then become a citizen, and then you can sponsor your parent. Now, in your case, because you've got a step parent and a biological parent, you could sponsor two parents, fathers, either one of them, right? Or both, as I understand it. And I went through this a little bit because of my wife's situation. So yes, step parents and biological parents could be there, but I would put your stepfather's details in the DS-260 if I were you. If a person transfers from Nairobi to Dar es Salaam by editing the DS-260 and returns, we already did this question the other day. Yeah, we did this question. I'll quickly cover it again. So you move to Dar es Salaam by editing the DS-260. The edit you'd have to make is to change your address to the area covered by Dar es Salaam, right? And then Dar es Salaam Embassy might accept your case for a scheduled interview. KCC would send your case to Dar es Salaam, but you then decide that you would rather be interviewed back in Nairobi, right? Presumably you move back to Nairobi because you didn't lie about moving to Dar es Salaam, did you? Right? So that is possible to do. You then are talking to the two embassies. You ask Nairobi if they're prepared to take your case. They say yes, hopefully. and then Dar es Salaam transfers the case to Nairobi. All of that happens without KCC being involved. Okay, so that's how the thing gets scheduled. It's by direct communication with the embassy from you to them, not with KCC. Okay. What are your predictions for the next VB? The VB will come out. That's my only prediction. Other than that, I'm not going to predict the numbers. Case number 80K for 2024. AF, yeah, transferred to Abu Dhabi Embassy. Any chance to get the 2.5? Look, that's a long time away, right? So we'll know a lot more in January. You've got plenty of time to wait. Africa is currently at 11,000 for December interviews. You have time to wait, right? Good luck, plaintiff. Yeah, so I talked about DV 2021 right at the beginning of the video. So I've given an update there. AF 42K in 2024 from Madagascar. How do I look up how many embassies doing processing wise? You don't look that up yet. We'll have data in January. Right now, we don't know any specifics about how the embassies are doing. Okay, but you'll interview where you live. That's basically how it works normally. If one's mother has never gone to school, which education level should he select for her in entrance process? Okay, so we're all confused with pronouns here, but I assume that you're filling out the DS-260 for the mother. So what education level should he select for her in the entrance process? Oh, it's in the entrance process. Okay, so firstly, is your mother, so your mother wants to have an entry by herself. She can only qualify for the visa if she meets the education requirement or is performing a job that meets the requirement, right? Which is normally professional sort of work. If your mother has neither one of those things, if she never went to school, she can't meet the education requirement. And if she's not doing a job which is a professional job, which normally requires some level of education and training, if she's not doing that, then she won't qualify for the lottery anyway. So she can enter the lottery, but she may not be able to process, right? But in any case, the selection about what education level, just pick whatever seems right. That particular question isn't a qualifying question. It's not an important question. It's purely for statistical analysis to see what sort of education level people who are applying for the lottery are coming from. Okay, that's all. But there are requirements to actually, if you enter the lottery and you're selected, there are requirements for educational work experience that you have to meet. Okay. An Iranian case number is AS 12,000. Any hope of getting a visa? If yes, is there any estimation for getting the interview? Living in Canada now. Thank you. Right. So you'll know by the visa bulletin that your case number is yet to become current. And you have some months to wait, I would have thought, before your case number is current. You've got a chance of getting the visa, but obviously as an Iranian, even in Montreal Embassy, you're going to have a long period or a high chance of a long period of processing after the embassy interview. So that's going to be a risk for you. So if you don't interview by May or so, then it starts to become risky. And this is mainly if you're a male or if there's a male on the case, right? Because Iranian males who perhaps served in the Iranian military go through an extensive period of background checking, okay? Which happens before and after the interview, by the way. So anyway, so you have a chance, but it's not a guarantee by any means because of the fact that many Iranians don't get approved in time. 2024 case number 27,000 from Indonesia. I have an opportunity to get to an L. Yeah, maybe. Again, I'm not trying to predict numbers here. What do I think about the safety? Is it safe? Yeah, as you say, I get that question many, many times, and I try not to answer it. Okay, so I won't answer it. I applied DV 2025, charged to my parent country of birth, as my country of birth isn't eligible. If I properly get selected, what documents of my parents would I need to present? You'd have to show. You'd have to show. Well, you'd have to show their places of birth, right? So you don't tell me the countries, unfortunately, which is annoying. But let's say you were born in Nigeria and your parents were from Ghana and South Africa, right? You would have to show their birth certificates to show that they weren't also born in Nigeria. So you can charge to either of their countries of birth, but you chose one of your parents' countries of birth. So the main thing is you'd have to show their documentation, such as their birth certificates, probably their passports, perhaps other information, if you were trying to say that you were there because of a work posting for your parents. So yeah, that's just, it's a bit of common sense, really. All right, what do you have to show that your parents were born in other countries? That's kind of common sense. Lulu Ismail, I think you'll get, I think next year, because you have a high case number. Yep, that's someone trying to do what an expert wouldn't do. So that's, yeah. After landing in the US, how soon can I get a job? What paperwork do I need to be hireable? This is a good question, really. You can get a job immediately. It's not likely that you'll get a job immediately, but you can. It's technically possible. Now, what paperwork you need is any employer is supposed to ask for your social security number. They should also see, at some point, they might ask to see your visa stamp in your passport, which is by that time would have been endorsed. That's proof of your status, that you're a lawful permanent resident. But the social security number may not arrive until 2 to 3 weeks after you arrive in the USA, right? So, and an employer is supposed to get the SSN from you within about, I think the rules say 4 days of employment starting. So, practically speaking, you can theoretically start work in the first few days of arriving, but it's better if you wait until about 2 weeks, because by that time you'll have your social security number after 2 to 3 weeks, and that works out well. So bring enough savings to survive for that first few weeks. That's the point, right? Don't assume you're going to get a job. Don't assume that you're going to start getting income. You need to be able to support yourself. Okay. My job is YouTuber. Okay, maybe you've got a really good channel, but I make peanuts on this YouTube channel, so I don't know how much of a job that could be. What do I fill in the DS260, and what am I going to say when they ask me my job in the interview? Well, you always tell the truth. But if you tell them that your job is a YouTuber, they're probably going to ask you for proof of, and if you're trying to qualify via that, right, they may well ask you for proof of income and that sort of thing. But if you're meeting the requirements on education, then your job is not really so important. But anyway, you can go ahead and always just tell them the truth. If you really are a YouTuber and that's your true income, that's how you support yourself, then congratulations, first of all. And secondly, tell the truth. When they ask you what you do, you say YouTuber, right? Mohammed says, can I make any changes? Can I make changes in the photo background? Yes, you can. I explained this on the last video I did, I believe. You can make changes to the background as long as it doesn't alter the appearance of yourself in the photo. Okay. Very, very important that you don't edit your appearance in any way. So you'll see sometimes these programs that take out the background and give a white background. They, might edit some of your hair out, or perhaps sort of crop some of your features out or something. That's not good. You want to make sure that you've got a really perfect edit if you're just trying to take the background out. And you might be just sort of, maybe you took a picture against a white background, but you noticed some part of the background has a blotch on or something, and you're just trying to whiten that out. That's fine, because it won't affect your appearance in any way. Okay, so that's okay. Okay, another one. Raluca, you moved to the USA, NYC, New York City last year. I hope you're doing well. New York City's a fun city, right? Cold though in the winter. You'll learn. It's pretty cold there. Right, where am I? I answered that question. Algeria, green card holder. I applied for my husband F2A, priority date, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I don't answer non-DV related questions. So good luck with that, but that's not a question I can answer. I've been watching you. My baby is 1 week older. Should I unlock the DS260 and add her, or should I let it remain the same way? You should absolutely unlock and add the baby, right? When you have a baby, newborn baby, you unlock your own DS260 and that of your spouse, right? You have to unlock both forms. And when you email KCC to unlock the forms, you have to be really clear and specific with them about which forms you want to unlock. So you should give all of your details and then say, I want to unlock my form and my wife's form or my husband's form or whatever, right? Make it very clear. The reason you need to unlock your forms for a newborn is because you need to add the baby to your own DS260, right? So you just do that. And then you need to use the button that says add applicant to create a DS260 for the baby as well, right? And you should do all of that as soon as possible. There's no delay for adding a baby because the baby doesn't have doesn't need background checks and, work history checks and everything else, right? It's just a baby. So there's no delay. There's no processing delay. So there's absolutely no question. You should unlock and add the baby as soon as possible. Okay. 53K AF from Africa. Will I have the chance to receive the 2NL? Like I've mentioned to other people, it will depend on your embassies more than anything else. DV 2024, registered last year around October. Is there a chance to be selected? There's a chance, Marin. You just need to go and check the entrance status check page, ESC page. Go do that. Okay. Don't wait another year to check it. Go ahead and do that. Okay. During the interview, when you have to prove your financial capacity, if I want to use a job offer, would a letter of intent of employment be acceptable? Be very careful with job offers in the USA. As I was explaining on a related question earlier, it's very unlikely, it's very suspicious that a company would say, yes, we're going to hire you, and yes, we're prepared to wait 3 or 4 months. Why would an employer wait for you if they've got a job that they need doing? They need someone to perform the job, right? Why would they wait for you, who is going to turn up here in 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, whenever? They don't know. Why would they hold a job offer open to you? Doesn't make any sense, really. Now, there's certain cases where that might be possible, but you better have a real, genuine explanation. And if what's actually going on is you've just got some bullshit job offer, letter of intent, written by a friend of yours who happens to be at an American company, and he's got hold of a headed notepaper or something, then you're more likely to harm your case than do good for it, right? Don't lie in this process. Don't make stuff up. Don't make up a job offer. So if you've got a letter of intent, the obvious question that a CEO is going to ask is why are they prepared to wait for you? Why are you so special? Right? And so you better have a damn good answer for that, and it better be a genuine job offer. If you've got that, if you've got a job offer, it can be useful, but don't make it up. Okay. And I think, and the reason I react that way is that I think probably 95% of people who ask me that have created some fake job offer. Right. So Algeria have answered that, I believe. What are your thoughts on Abu Dhabi Embassy? Answered that. Something, please inbox, whatever. Oh, yeah. Don't inbox each other when it's the blind leading the blind. Have you heard that saying before? The blind leading the blind. This was the guy that tried to give advice about, when will you get your 2NL, and here's my case number. If an expert tells you that he or she won't predict your case number, and then some random guy on the internet says, I can predict your case number, then it's more likely that that guy's a bit of a fool, and you would be a fool listening to that guy rather than listening to the expert. Is that sinking in? All right, because there are a lot of fools out there talking some nonsense about this process. So don't let the blind lead the blind just because somebody says something that you want to hear. Right? Please don't get into that situation. It just creates chaos for yourself. I want to move from the UK to USA because of career and weather. that's my answers too. Yep. Hi Britain, DV 2023 winner, visa issued, moving to the USA in December. Thank you so much for the guide throughout. Your videos are a real help. That's awesome, Prem. Good luck on the move there. Hope you have an easy move. Case number Asia 35,000. Do we have a chance to get the 2NL? Don't know. That case number is quite high. You'll have to wait and see. We'll have more data in January. Case number 37K, 24 Europe. What's your thoughts? So that's probably not a bad number, but we'll see. We'll have more information in January, right? Hi Simon, can we call you privately? My name is Simon. You mustn't call me privately. That's not my name. Oh, I see. Can you contact me privately? I see what you're saying. That's just my silly sense of humor. No. You can't contact me privately. I don't offer one-to-one coaching. I don't charge anybody for any services. I'm not a lawyer. I prefer to answer my questions, any questions, in public, because when I answer the question for one person in public, there's often somebody else who is reading or watching that answer and they had a similar question, so I can kill more than one bird with one stone, right? And I would rather do that way. And I don't have time. I have a job, so I don't have time to sort of do a lot of things one-to-one, right? So no, I don't give my email address, or I don't read. I'm on Telegram, for example. I don't respond to private messages on Telegram at all. I ignore them totally, and I'm sure it annoys people, but I've told people time and time again, I'm not going to respond to private messages. So, if you email me or send me a private message, it will just go ignored. Okay. So, baby brands. I filled the first page of the form, left out the photo section since I didn't have one. I did not submit it. Will I be penalized if I continue filling it? Let's see, the session is only 20 minutes. Okay. Probably when you restart that, it'll probably be a new session. It won't penalize you as such. You'll need to go through that probably from the beginning to end. I don't know whether it will remember any of your details. But yeah, you can't continue without the photos. And you need a photo for yourself and for any derivatives. All right. So make sure you got all that prior to going through that. Okay. Prem, the guy moving from the UK. I'm considering a marriage to my girlfriend, who is a doctor in her second year residence. Can I apply visit visa B1, B2 for her, as I will have a green card? Okay, she can apply for a B1, B2. You don't apply for her, right? Just because you've got a green card doesn't give you some magic right to go and invite all the people that you want to bring over, right? You have no influence in that process. If she wants to go and apply for a B1, B2, and if she wants to say that she's going to stay with you because her boyfriend or whatever else, that might be okay. But generally speaking, there's no advantage, and possibly even a disadvantage, of her saying that she is connected to you, right? And certainly you don't get any rights to give her a B1, B2 because of your green card. Okay, so yeah. Now, when you go through a marriage process with her, if you do that, then later you'll be able to include her. But it's yeah, but you're a DV 2023, right? So you already missed the chance to add her to your case. So you'll have to sponsor her later. Oh, I'm planning to file for her B1, B2 visa before applying for green card, as it will take around 2 years. I want her to visit the USA before her green card arrive. Yeah, it's going to take at least 2 years once you marry her. So yes, by all means, bring her on a B1, B2 if she can get one, right? Just so that she can visit the country. But for goodness sake, make sure she goes home before the end of that visa process, right? Don't create any problems. Do I think Africa will turn current? So it might go current. It's the only region I think might go current. And the reason for that is because of the really badly performing embassies in Africa. If embassies perform badly, let's say an embassy is responsible for handling 5,000 applicants or more, and there are some embassies, and that embassy does very little work and destroys the chances of thousands of people. That's a good thing for people at other embassies with higher case numbers. Okay, it's a horrible way to put it, but that's the reality. And that's what happened in DV 2023. That's why DV 2023 went current. So the only way Africa can go current is if that sort of stuff, bad embassies, if that sort of thing happens. The other regions, they're very unlikely to go current because there's just too many people selected. So high case numbers in other regions are more or less certain to miss out. In Africa, maybe there's a chance for the highest case numbers. Oh, you've asked that so many times, Sophia. How many years has Nairobi not done well? Up until DV 2019, they were doing pretty well. And then DV 2020, the COVID year, and 21, 22, 23, all those years have been bad, obviously, for various reasons, not just in Nairobi, but all embassies. But the present problem we see in Nairobi, as with other embassies, is really a COVID impact. That winds people up tremendously when the embassies say that, because they're like, COVID was 2020, it was 2021. But the point is, there was a massive backlog of immigrant cases created over that time period. And that backlog is still a problem. It's still working through the system. And one of the things that an embassy can do, if they've got a massive backlog of certain cases, they can prioritize most of their efforts to those cases. And that's exactly what Nairobi Embassy have done. They've prioritized other cases and not DV. They've deprioritized DV cases and said, okay, we'll do some DV cases, but not many. And that's the problem. So yeah, since 2020, it's gone wrong, basically. Does unlocking the DS260 change the date of submission? No, of course not. The date you submitted is still the date you submitted. What you're really asking is, does unlocking slow down your case in some way? And the answer to that is no, it doesn't. But there are many people who don't understand what the hell they're talking about, who will say different to that and will say it's delayed, it delays. And the reality is it doesn't cause a delay unless you're doing something tremendously impactful, like you just got married and you married a nuclear rocket scientist from Iran, right? And you now you unlock your DS260 and add that nuclear rocket scientist from Iran onto your case as your new spouse. There's going to be a delay on that case, yeah, right? Because that rocket scientist is going to go through background checks. So there are certain things that you can do that will cause a delay, and rightfully so. But in those cases, you want that delay. You want that extra processing to happen early, right? So I would say in 100% of the cases, you should be unlocking if there's something wrong with your DS260. The only time I would say don't do it, and that's kind of marginal too, is if you've got a very low case number that is about to become current or you're already current and you've got a pretty trivial change to make. Don't unlock your DS260 for a trivial change. There's no need, right? But if it's something significant, like you got married or you had a baby, or you've made a serious error on your DS260, then unlock, right? It's the right thing to do. And then Sophia, who has asked 50 times about Algeria 57K, said, yes, it does change it. No, it doesn't. How could it change the submission date, Sophia? How could the submission date change from unlocking the case? Just, it's frustrating when people don't use their brains. Oh, dear. Back in 2015, your content helped me tremendously. Thank you. You're very welcome, Jose. And I assume that you're living in America. So I'm pleased. And how amazing, 8 years later, you're still logging in for the YouTube videos occasionally. That's awesome. Vadim, with your help, I got visas in 2019. We're happy in North Carolina. That's awesome. There's like about 4 or 5 people who come in today saying that they're here in America now because of because of the DV program, and I helped in some way. That's really nice. It cheers me up no end. Thank you. Julia says, you asked a question earlier, Julia, didn't you? Julia or Julia, perhaps. My sister won DV lottery in 2020. Embassy cancelled her interview because of the COVID. Will DV 2020 lottery winners, do they have any chance? Yeah. So it's you're waiting for the appeal, Julia, of the lawsuit. We won the lawsuit. Judge Mehta set aside 9,095 visas, but then the government appealed that win, and so that everything's on hold while that appeal is being considered. And we've been waiting literally over a year for the appeals court to make their decision. So we don't know what's going to happen. So we'll have to wait and see. But the 9,095 visas that were set aside is not enough for everybody that was waiting for a visa in DV 2020. So there will be some people who succeed and get visas if the appeal court rule in our favor, and some people won't. We don't know which way that will work yet. Okay. Bogger one, how do you present yourself during a visa interview in order to get a visa without refusal? In terms of answering interview question and dressing. In terms of. Okay, dressing, just casual smart, right? You don't have to wear a suit. Don't go in your scruffiest clothes like you've just come out of the bath or something. Something in between that. Not the scruffiest you've ever dressed, not the smartest you've ever dressed, something in between. In terms of answering questions, honesty is your main thing. Straightforward questions. When you're asked a question in the interview, you answer that question. You don't go off and talk for 15 minutes like Brett Simon does about some unrelated thing, right? You just answer the questions you're asked. So most interviews for DV Lottery take about 3 to 5 minutes, literally. And the questions are very, very trivial normally. They're not going to be big questions. They may be looking to confirm a couple of things from your form. They may ask you, oh, I see you worked at this company. What was that like? They may do. It's conversational. But whatever they ask, just answer with 100% honesty, matter of fact. You're not looking to make their friends. You're just looking to answer the questions, okay? And don't over-answer. Don't answer questions you weren't asked. That's it. That's the only thing you have to do. Sir Fuller Mansouri says, my brother got DV for 2024. Do you know when he will get the interview date? Yes, because I know your brother, because out of the 140,000 people who have been selected for the DV 2024 lottery in DV 2024, I know them all personally, and I know whose brothers and sisters everyone is. So I know your brother. I know his case number. I know which embassy he's at. So I could tell you exactly his date, but I think it's something that I should really discuss with him personally. Amazing, Safiola. Okay. In period of time asylum in the UK, can I work in the UK? I don't know anything about that. I'm British. I lived in the UK, but I have no experience or knowledge about the asylum system in the UK. I have failed to do so via this live, says Sekais. I have failed to do so via this one. Yeah, I don't know what that means. If my country is split into regions, then zones, then districts, how would I fill out the address section that is split into district, countries, then city and town? Okay, so the address systems in Western, countries or Europe or whatever are fairly detailed, right? So you'll live in a city. Sometimes you'll be in a town near a city or something like that. You'll have a street address. You'll have a street number. Sometimes you'll have an apartment number, something like that. Now, in some parts of Africa, it's not at all like that, right? You might only receive mail very rarely, and when that happens, maybe it goes to the village, and you don't have a street name or a number of your house or anything like that in your village. It's a very small village, and there are no addresses like that. Sometimes in that situation, you can give an address, perhaps of the post office in town, or the school in town, or a business in town, or something like that. And in those cases, you would put care of the school, care of the post office, care of this well-known person, the local mayor, or whoever it is that can receive post on your address, right? So you just have to use a bit of common sense with whatever is your situation. It's difficult for me to advise you, how you would fill that out. But just imagine, like, you're expecting an important letter. What address would you put? Now, funnily enough, the place where you live is not that important, in terms of the address, because you're not going to receive any post there. In countries that have got pretty poor systems like that, you'll register with a courier service, and you'll probably pick up your passport. They're not going to send you any letters before the interview. KCC won't send you any letters. And so you don't really need the address to be that accurate, right? After the interview, you need to get your passport and your visa package. And so, that's why you register with the courier, and they can sometimes arrange for you to pick that up at a local pickup office, right? And that's why you register with the courier. Okay. Hi, Simon the Brit. What case number do you consider high for Africa? I start thinking high numbers, anything above sort of 70, 80K, roughly speaking. Do I need to get a job, and where to live to get? Do I need to get a job, and where to live to get my visa? I have no idea why you're asking that. I don't know what piece of advice you're asking there. Nilla Dirt, what do you think of EU 21,000? It's not a bad number, actually. That's a pretty good number. Godwin says, is it a wise idea to apply for DV lottery and school in the state at the same time? No. Well, I mean, no. Let me put it another way. If you're applying for school in the States, that's going to be on some student visa, right? So I think it's F1 or J1. So you can apply for that at the same time as DV lottery. I don't think it's unwise to do that. There's no bad thing to do about that. It's just that you wouldn't say applying for the DV lottery isn't a plan. You wouldn't say to a school, hey, I've entered DV 2025 and I'm going to win in May. And I know I am, because I feel like I'm going to win. And therefore, please register me in school from September. No, that's not how it works, right? Your chance of selection in a lottery is just a lottery. I mean, it's just a chance. It's not a plan. But if you understand that, then there's no harm in simultaneously applying for a student visa to come study in the States and entering the DV lottery. There's no harm in that. Okay. Hi, Bristow. Bristow is a brand name of gravy granules in the UK. Makes great gravy, but that's Bisto, not even Bristow. Anyway, Bristow, that's not my name. For the past year, selectees were less compared to DV 2024. What do you think will be the cutoff for AF since our case number is high, like 122K? If your number is really 122K, then yeah, you're in trouble, right? The only chance that you have is that some embassies in some places destroy the chances of thousands of people, right? There are 55,000 people selected in Africa in DV 2024, and there's 23 to 24,000 visas available for that number of people, right? So you can see the problem. And if your case number is high, that means you're at the back of the line. So you need a lot of people in the line in front of you to lose their chance or to not take their chance in order for you to get a chance to go ahead, right? Is that going to happen? I don't know. You have to wait and see. Okay. Okay. Couple more questions, then we'll call it a day. If I move to Germany from Turkey, will I be eligible to transfer my embassy to Frankfurt? Yep. Is changing between regions possible? Also, what's your predictions on whether the visa bulletin will increase? The visa bulletin will increase, right? How much it will increase by, I don't know. I haven't got a prediction. Can you change regions? Well, you can't change regions in terms of your case number, but you can be interviewed in any other region, any country where you move to. So if you move to Germany from Turkey, and you've established residence in Germany, then yeah, absolutely. You unlock your DS-260, you change your address to Germany, and you'll be scheduled in Frankfurt. If you move to China, you can be interviewed there. If you move to Australia, you can be interviewed there. There's no harm in being interviewed in a foreign embassy, right? In a different place, so that's fine. Let's say I'm from France, but I live in China. Can I get my DV visa in China, even though China doesn't participate in the DV lottery? Another related question, right? And somehow I guessed about the China question. Yeah, it's fine. They don't have to participate. There are people who are interviewed every year in China, and it doesn't matter that they don't participate. Same as London, right? London is up until DV 2025, people from the UK were not allowed to enter the lottery, right? Not eligible to enter, but London processed a lot of DV cases. Same thing. I'm getting some good questions now at the end here. Oh, my print says, do the person who applies on the first day have equal chances of winning with the person who submits forms on the last day? Yes, it's the same. It's a random draw. The day you enter makes no difference to your chances of entering. The time of day you enter makes no difference to the time to your chances of selection. Whether you're married or whether you're single makes no difference. Whether your name is Frank or whether you're a prince in your case, right? Makes no difference. Your education level makes no difference because it's a random draw, right? Totally random. So it doesn't matter when you enter, where you enter from, your education level or anything else, it's random, right? I hope we've covered all the possible questions there. OC3000, I watched your video a few weeks ago, so I'm thinking I may not get my tour now. Yeah, I'm still pretty convinced that your case number range is about the beginning of the sort of very risky range, right? There's really no reason. Like if we looked at DV 2023, it went current to 2,500, but there was this last minute disaster where they stopped processing on the 6th of September. And so for OC, that means that they really didn't need to go to 2,500, case number 2,500. Now, the distribution of visas, I think, is going to be very similar between 24 and 23. Because although the case numbers are massively higher for OC in 24 compared to 23, there's 77% more selectees in OC region, right? That's massive. And that 77% extra is the reason why we've got such high case numbers in OC in DV 2024, right? So you can pretty reliably say that case number 2500 in DV 2023 is the same positionally as case number 2500 in DV 2024, right? And 2500 was the cutoff point in DV 2023, and that was generous. Okay, so 3000, yeah, I think you're at risk, pretty clearly at risk. Okay. Getting your comment picked and read by Simon is arguably as hard as winning the lottery. I'm going down one at a time, which is why I answered that. Let me just see if I can blitz through 5 or 6 questions. Hang on, let's see. AF25K, any chance? Yeah. 95K from Jakarta. What do you think to get a chance? You got a chance. Do you have any idea of the efficiency of South African embassy? They're pretty efficient. They're pretty good. Joe Berg's pretty good. Consular officer reopened my DS260, told me to update and submit information on the interview, which I did. She put me on 221G. How long can it take? It can take anything from a few days to a few months. There's no way I can predict from what you said how long it's going to take in your case. Is case number 10K high case number of Nepal? Probably not. You're probably only about halfway through the numbers and pretty safe therefore. Does the person, I already answered that one. Crucial role here in Virginia. That's awesome. Another nice message. Thank you, Nana. But I'm on a blitz. Hang on, let me see if I can do some more. 10K Asia, but interview is in Ethiopia. When do you think I'll interview? God, why are you trying to interview in Ethiopia? That could be a risk to your case, right? You might want to consider moving back to Asia, frankly. So I don't know when you'll interview. You're not current yet. Answered that question already. Something about Cairo. I heard that the US Embassy in Cairo delayed interviews, so I thought that I would ask you, what do you think is happening, knowing that there is a Gaza war? Oh God, let's finish on this. Oh, it's Sahar. How you doing, Omda? Good to hear from you. I'm going to finish up on this question then, and let me talk about Gaza situation as well at the moment. What a sad, sad situation. Oh, just brutal. So I don't know what's going to happen. I think fairly clearly, I don't know whether to get into this, Sahar. I'm one of those people that is very conflicted by what I see. Obviously nobody appreciates nobody of decency appreciates what the Hamas terrorists did in Israel, slaughtering people. It's horrific. On the other hand, I understand the plight of the Palestinian people, and I'm horrified by the way they've had a foot on their neck for many, many years, and I'm no fan of that behavior either. I think Israel is a strong, powerful military force and can obliterate Palestine, and probably has been given the excuse to do so by Hamas. So, I'm so frustrated Hamas did what they did, because I think it's just going to get a lot of innocent Palestinians killed. And with half of the Palestinian occupants in Gaza being children, how can that possibly be justified? So, am I anti-Israel? Am I anti-Jew? No. Am I anti-Israel government? Yes, I have been for many years. Does that make me an anti-Semite? No. It just means that I realize that watching a country bullying its small neighbor, being supported by most of the countries, including my own, including America, over religious bullshit is just wrong, right? If there were no religion, this wouldn't be happening. So don't get me started on religion, but religion is the problem here, right? And both of these religions and all religions is just fairy stories. So, if that offends anyone, tough shit. That's how I feel about it. And one of the reasons I get angry about religion is because it's done more harm than good. And this position in Gaza is exactly evidence of that. The Jews who were horribly brutalized by the Nazis in World War II and were brutalized for 100 years before that, in various other ways, are now brutalizing decent, honest people who just want a chance to live in peace. Now, is Hamas good people? No, clearly they're not. But by terrorizing innocent people in Gaza, you're just going to create more terrorists in the future, because those people are going to fight back. Of course, they're going to fight back. And Sahad, to your point, what will this do in the region? So Israel is going to drive people south and drive them, if they can, drive Palestinians into Egypt. What will that do for Egypt? I don't know. Will Egypt become involved? It looks like they won't at the moment, but who knows? We could see an escalation of tensions in the region, because Israel is a very powerful force in that region, and frankly, their blood is up, as you might say, and so they may go to war with any of their close neighbors. They've done it before. Why wouldn't they do it again? So I'm very fearful for what's going to happen next. And very conflicted about the whole thing. And the only thing I hate in the whole thing, I hate a lot of the killing, etc., obviously, but I hate the fact that all this is because of religious bullshit. It just makes me very sad. But there you go. So I hope that it's over quickly and peacefully, and I hope other countries don't get involved. But somebody needs to do something to save the people of Palestine, because 1,000 Israelis were killed in brutal, horrible ways, and that should never have happened. But that's not an excuse to kill thousands in Gaza. In my opinion, it's not an excuse. But there you go. So I've probably alienated about half of my viewers who don't agree with me about a religion or about my political position on Israel or Gaza or Palestine. Or any of that region, but there you go. That's me. And so what can I say? I can only be honest about how I feel. So I don't know what Cairo Embassy will do. There is some talk about U.S. embassy staff being evacuated from the Israeli embassy. That's a possibility. Would they start evacuating from Egypt? No, not unless there is an actual escalation, a war that happens in the region between Egypt and Israel, most likely, right? But that doesn't seem much of a possibility. So fingers crossed. I hope that doesn't happen, and fingers crossed. I hope this whole thing is over quickly. It's just horrible. Anyway, on that slightly sad note, I think we'll finish the live session here. For those of you that do believe in God of any form, then say your prayers for your own God, but also for the people that have died and are continuing to die in countries, such as Israel, such as Gaza, such as Ukraine, and several African countries, which just, it's sad. So, there should be peace, not war. Okay, everybody, thanks very much for joining me today. Cheers now. Bye-bye.